So today was rough, but I was looking forward to talking about this topic of meetups because it's one of the most common things that people with good intention recommend. I'm just going to talk about my own experience with them. And disclaimer, this might not be your experience. In fact, I hope it's not. Meetup website itself is easy to use. I don't know if they still do this because it's been a while since I've used Meetup, but in the past, Meetup did bombard you with a bunch of advertisements to try free trials of things whenever you signed up for any Meetup. But I don't know whether or not that still happens, or if it's better, if it's worse. But when I had applied, when I signed up for different meetups, right, you are able to put in whatever city and state you live in, which is already potentially a difficult step because if you live on the outskirts of a metropolitan area, you can end up having very few options that are close to you. And depending how far you're willing to travel and what options you have to travel and what options you're willing to take to travel, that can make things difficult. But that's not really Meetup's fault. A big thing about Meetups, previously when I used Meetups elsewhere, when I met in person, those Meetups did have a lot of older people. But now that I live in a city, the Meetups do have younger people. When you actually go to the meetups, how things go can depend on the culture of the state or the city or even the region of whatever country you're in or the country you're in. Because what you could be in a rural area and I don't know, people can be really welcoming, that southern charm. Or you can be in a rural area and people are judgmental. You can, in the case of the city, it's kind of weird and frustrating because I found that when I went to meetups, people, even in events where it's encouraged for you to talk to people, like picnics, group gets together or has whoever wants to come over for a picnic come over, and literally people will come with their friends, and that sounds fine, and it is, but then the only people they want to talk to are their friends. If you're going there alone trying to make friends, these people are not going to want to talk to you, or at least you're going to end up feeling like an outsider talking to them, engaging in their conversation. Even if they literally welcome you in, as far as sitting on the same blanket as them, whatever you say may end up just feeling dismissed. They might say a polite, oh, cool. But generally, where I am, a lot of meetups have ended up being siloed like that, where people just talk to their friends and you're kind of left out. And that sucks. It can be a meetup where, for example, some speed dating meetups where someone just puts a singular speed dating event on meetups, they end up being like, some of them are very awkward, almost no one shows up, and nobody really finds a match. Or they are well attended, but the ones that were well attended, I don't think were ever on Meetup. Because that's the thing, right? After a year, I almost completely stopped using Meetup. Before I stopped using it, I did find at least one group that I still, am connected to today. I have really bad hearing disabilities, and they and so many other groups tend to meet in loud places because it's not, for me, it's not just hearing loss, although it's also audio processing disorder. So even if you're loud enough for me to hear you, if there's a lot of noise going on around, then your voice in my ear is going to get distorted. So that's always going to be a struggle for me. I'm just now as an adult truly realizing how detrimental that's been to me talking to other people. And today's going to be the last day you're gonna see Samuel or Preeti walking around last video because they got adopted. Just random tangent there. But meetups. I should probably try not to make these videos so late at night because my brain's fried. Because this wasn't a great day. It didn't end great, and I'm tired. At least mentally, I'm spent. I don't feel tired, but whatever. So, what was I going to say? So, meetups, at the end of the day, it just kind of feels like, again, maybe I'm just neurodiverse and it's just harder to make genuine friends. I feel like some people will say meetups are for people who struggle to make friends, and it shows. I have met some good friends. There was a cat meetup where people brought their cats over and people pet their cats if the cat was willing. That actually helped push me to start fostering cats, so you're welcome. But ironically, these cats that I'm fostering, for one reason or another, probably wouldn't be all that enthused if I took them out. Or I've been flat out told I can never take them outside, which is fine. Sometimes people come over and meet the cats that way, but the cats are always very shy. But there were some successes. I don't want to be all edgy here and say meetups did nothing for me. There was some success. There are still online groups. Those are hit or miss as far as how active they are. Online groups being they meet on Zoom. Just like any meetup, it's kind of iffy how much attendance and activity goes on there. There were some Discord servers, local Discord servers, where people were mostly local, and I actually played a short D&D campaign on one of those. I guess still the problem is when you go to a meetup, I guess because it has that air of everyone there like awkward for one reason or another, and we're trying to connect with people. And that's a beautiful thing on paper, but then it's like everyone, including me, is struggling to find their people and talk to people and connect with people. And so meetups are, they can be very awkward. I've had good memories with different meetups, but I did make 2 friends toward the beginning of the time I was starting to use Meetup. I met them by essentially going to this meetup that was made for talking to people to make friends at a local third place. This city, I guess cities in general, have at least tried to address the need people have for third places. And where I am, in the city I'm in, there's a bunch of places where it's either you can rent board games and, have a drink, or you can play arcade games and have a drink. They generally don't consider themselves bars. They do have bars in them, but they are whatever you would call a social place, because there's something that you can use to help socialize with other people. There are plenty of tables and such inside, outside too. Meet up and socialize with people. A lot of meetups would meet in these places. But I found the group that was there for the meetup, and they had all these groups of people who merged together talking about different things. And I kept going from one group to another, joining in on their whatever conversation until it stopped being interesting. And then I moved on until I got to a group where someone who had a super relatable vibe was talking to other people, and she was cool with me talking to her too. And so I was talking to her and other people, and her friend who came with her that day just because she wanted to get out the house or something. I think, if I recall right, she almost didn't come, or she wasn't super enthused, and she came, and that's how I met both of them. It was an important thing definitely is to set up continuing communication with anybody that you meet somewhere and find interesting. I've definitely tried that with hit or miss results. Some people are definitely, for the most part, even if someone was willing to give me their number, I would text them and they're getting no reply. Or if I invited them to something, it would be like, oh, sorry, I'm busy, and that's it. Maybe it's my insecurity, but that kind of told me like they don't really want to hang out after the first time, so that's what it is. But I think eventually with meetups, I just got to a point where I was like, I think this has run its course. I've gotten at least most of the good I can get from this. Sometimes things surprised me as far as how active they were or how fun it ended up being, but I felt like I saw every meetup for the most part, and I was just, the autism in me was just like seeing all the patterns of the different types of meetups, and none of it, well, not none of it, but most of it wasn't really working, and I really wasn't motivated to go to these meetups. I generally, still to this day, struggle to find motivation to go to meetups. Basically, well, not just meetups, because I don't go to meetups anymore. I find it hard to find motivation to go to events or random meetups of specific groups that I'm a part of. I join those groups because I have some commonality. There's a Girls Who Walk group here. That group has a bunch of subgroups that do different things besides just walking or hiking. I'm down for hiking, but I sleep in on the weekends, and a lot of their walks are in the morning on weekends. I know there are some evening ones, but I don't know, it's right after work, and I don't live in that city exactly. I have to take the metro in, and excuses. Anyway, but I have put in a lot of effort going to different, whether it's meetups or group outings or any of that. I have only gotten 2 friends from it, and I don't mean to besmirch those friends because they are very fun to be around. They are my people. It's just like right now, for example, a lot's going on for them, so they don't really have time to hang out, and that's not their fault. Life happens. I have my own shit going on. But right now, emotionally, I could use people to talk to, and I don't want to keep relying on the same 2 online friends I have when I'm struggling. So I'm hoping to find friends. I keep trying to go out. It's kind of funny because eventually I do want to find a partner. And one group that I've started to go to meetups with, when I say meetups at this point, just not meetup.com meetups, but their meetups. When I go to their meetups, it's one of the people told me, don't try to find a relationship in there. The reason they said it is because someone was like, hey, who wants advice on stuff? And I jokingly was like, how do I find a partner? And somebody took me aside, don't look in this group. Because apparently there's been a lot of drama in the past with people who were in relationships or tried to do relationships, and only very few successful relationships ever happened. So that's great. But it's hard, man. I've just been struggling, feeling like I'm in the center of a circle, trying to find which way to go to make friends. Obviously, there's no immediate answer to that. I just keep thinking about my next step. Like, I am and I'm not trying to strategize this. It's not, friendships are not exactly something that could be strategized, but I'm trying to be the most reasonable about where to spend my energy in finding friends. And that is the biggest advice I don't think gets talked about enough. The biggest piece of advice that doesn't get talked about enough is actually sticking to things you're genuinely interested in doing. Don't just go out, touch grass, and try to talk to the first person you see. Actually do things you're interested in, and you're naturally going to find people who you are excited to talk about things with, which I've found to be true. It's just hard because the things that I like talking about, anime, video games, Genshin, it's hard to find those kind of groups. I found multiple for anime and video games, 2 separate ones. I don't know. It's just like, because part of the reason is I can't say I have something that I can talk forever about, that I'm super duper enthusiastic about. There are things I'm passionate about, but it's like, I don't know. I just am passionate about those things in my head. Unless there's something that really sparks a conversation in me, that really gets me talking a lot. I can be good at being very participatory and back and forth about something I'm interested in. I just am actually one of the rare autistic people who find it hard to monologue. This is me. I'm monologuing here, but I'm like, there are things that I wish I could say, but it's kind of buried in me. I guess this is healthy for me to do these freestyle monologues, even if they can be annoying because I get distracted a lot. Hopefully they help me eventually unravel my thoughts. Unravel the world. I should not do that if I don't want to be copyrighted. But it's just like, I'm struggling because don't where I should be going, what I should be doing to meet friends. Do you want to be friends? I don't know if you know where I live, and I probably already have said where I live in some way, shape, or form, but I don't want to keep doing that even if I have. So, but I'm just struggling to make friends. I don't know. It just sucks. You can find different opportunities to meet people and try them. And I guess part of the problem, part of why it makes it so hard for me to motivate myself to go out and meet people is because people will, in these meetups, whether it's meetup.com or whatever else, it's still fairly surface level. Some people will have more successful friendships as far as taking it farther than surface level. I just feel like so far for me, everything's kind of remained surface level. We're just there to do a thing for the most part, and we shoot the shit a bit, but I don't know. Again, my goal is to find friends and find a partner, but also I said earlier, you should go out and do things, but I've found that you should go out and do things, but I am such a homebody. Even that is, for me, why would I want to go outside? I still have to force myself to go outside. I am that nerd. And also just like, it stinks because I know I get overwhelmed by people easily. Even when I do go out, I want to go home, or I just am over people pretty easily. I grew up going to school, so it's not like I had a crazy low amount of human interaction at any point. I did, even when I wasn't going to school, I was at work. It's basically, the reason I'm confused is because I then go and talk to, because I went to college, and being even in a college town just had me completely human fried. That's a weird term, but I was just so overwhelmed and irritated because there were so many people. And it's just like, I don't know how much human interaction I actually want. I just know that whether it's because of lack of human interaction or lack of meaningful or fulfilling human interaction or something else completely, I know I'm depressed. I know my eyes look weird. That's genetics. My parents don't look like this. It's just me with unlucky mutations. My hair, I don't take care of myself well. I know that I have always struggled with that. I just don't see a reason to care, although that's changing a bit. But it's always, the only care I've ever had about my appearance has always been what other people might think, how other people are perceiving me, because that's how I was taught to think about my appearance, and the motivation I was given to care about my appearance. And it's just like, it was never about me feeling good. It was about not being disgusting to other people. And I think that did its own damage to my self-esteem, because my appearance and how I feel about it, even that isn't really about me and how I feel. It's about it. I was raised to think of it always from how it made other people feel, which, if you're a new parent out there, that should not be how you motivate your kids to take care of themselves. You should actually teach them to love themselves. I don't know that shit. Self-love. I know principles of not being hard on myself and rewarding myself and things like that, but actual healthy well of self-love isn't really something I have. But that's where I am. I think I've blabbered. I think I've given my good old blabber today. Thank you so much for watching. If you watched all this, subscribe, the bell, hype, do whatever you feel like doing. Unfortunately, I can't say do it to see these cats again because you won't see them again. I'm going to miss them, these silly rascals, and I hope they have a great new home. But thank you. Also, hi.